All right, part B of 13.4 is now finding missing sides instead of missing angles. This is the last video, last lesson of the year. So we've made it, just got to get through this, quick check, one last test. So we are going to evaluate trig values at any angle, not just our special angles or at theta. And we're going to use these trig values to find the exact value of sides in these right triangles. All right, so two examples here. Here's our first example. It says find the value of x. We see that x is a side in the triangle. And we want to find this to the nearest tenth, so 1 decimal place. So this is what we're trying to find. This is our unknown. What we have is we have this angle here, and we have one side that we're given. So based on the sides that we're given, that's going to identify what trig function we want to use. So everything's always based off the angle. So the angle that we have is this angle. So based off of this angle, we have adjacent right next to it. And then we have the longest side across from the right angle, the hypotenuse. So if we think of our trig functions, we have SOHCAHTOA, our three main ones. If we have opposite over hypotenuse, we know we're going to be using cosine. So our trig functions, sine, cosine, tangent, even when we use cosecant, secant, cotangent, those are always revolving around the angle. So it's always cosine of theta, cotangent of theta. So here we have cosine, not of theta, but we actually know what the angle is. We have cosine of 41. So to set it up, instead of cosine of theta, we have cosine of 41 degrees. Well, that's going to be equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, adjacent, that's x. That's what we don't know. And our hypotenuse is 32. Now our goal here is to go ahead and solve for x. So we're just solving this equation here. And we're just using our calculator to figure out what cosine of 41 is. And based on the last video, we should have it set up in degrees already. If you don't, make sure you click mode. That fourth line, just make sure it's highlighted over degree. If it's not, change that. So we want to solve for x. Well, we have x divided by 32. So how do we get rid of divided by 32? We do the opposite. We do the inverse. So the opposite of division would be multiplication. So we're going to multiply by 32 on both sides. So now we have x is equal to 32 times the cosine of 41. You're just going to use your calculator to do this. 32 times cosine of 41. Type it in your calculator just like that. And we are rounding to the nearest tenth to 1 decimal place. So if I go ahead and type this into my calculator, I should get x is equal to 24.2. So that is what that side is. And a nice quick check is that, one, it can't be negative. So if you get any negatives, you know you did it wrong. Also, it has to be smaller than the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse is the longest side. So it is. So that's a kind of a good indicator that it might be the right answer. So we have 24.2 as our missing side. And our last example, example 2, solve the triangle. So solve the triangle just means find anything that's missing. So we're missing x and y. We don't know what those two values are. So that's what we're trying to find here. So we know that we have 37 degrees is our angle that we're going to base everything off of. We also could find this angle here if we wanted to go off that angle. So it doesn't really matter. If I was to go off of this angle, we know that all three angles have to add up to 180 degrees. So I could say, okay, 180 minus 90 minus 37 is going to give me that third angle. So this angle over here is 53 degrees. If I wanted to use that, I could, or I can use the angle that I'm given. So I could use any of them. So I'm just going to use 37 because that's the angle that was given to us. So based off of this angle, this is opposite, this is adjacent, and this is our hypotenuse. So if I wanted to find x first, well, x, I have adjacent, and I'm given the opposite. So if I want to use a trig function, I have SOHCAHTOA. I have opposite and adjacent, so I'm going to use tangent. So here I have the tangent of 37 equals opposite over adjacent. Opposite is 4 over adjacent, that's x. So I know I'm going to be solving for x. Well, what is x? Well, I have to go through and I have to use tangent of 37 and 4. Well, I have to do the inverse. So here I end up multiplying by x on both sides. So I get x times tangent of 37 equals 4. Well, my goal is to get x by itself, so I have to get rid of this. Well, these two things are being multiplied, so I'm going to divide. So I get x is equal to 4 divided by tangent of 37. So in my calculator, I type in 4 divided by tangent of 37, and I end up getting 5.3. So x is equal to 5.3. That's that side. So now go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out y. You can figure out y using 37 degrees, or you can use it using 53 degrees. It's your choice, but regardless, you should come up with the same answer. So pause, try and figure that one out, hit play to go ahead and review the answer. All right, so you should get that y is equal to 6.6. So if you used 37 degrees, you would have gotten, you have the opposite side, which is 4, and you're figuring out y. So opposite over hypotenuse is sine. So the sine of 37 equals 4 over y. Go ahead and solve, and you get 6.6. If you wanted to use 53, you had adjacent and hypotenuse, so you would have used cosine, but you still should have gotten 6.6. So if you have any questions on this lesson, feel free to reach out via email or set up a Zoom meeting. Otherwise, go ahead and take the Google form quick check. It's just a couple questions. Go through, see if you got them right. If you got them right, awesome. Tomorrow we're going to be reviewing for the test on Thursday. If you didn't get them right, maybe review, go through, see if you can figure out why you got them wrong. And if you couldn't, set up a Zoom meeting or email me. Tomorrow's review. Thursday is going to be our final test of the year.